Hey, everybody, happy Monday. I hope you had a great and safe holiday weekend. Thank goodness, aside from some weather emergencies, didn't hear about anything getting nothing really catastrophic or violent, which was a blessing, really a blessing in and of itself. People did what they needed to do to stay safe and stay protected, and for those who went out and saw fireworks in their communities, I heard some stories of incredible unity and beautiful times, and then there were many people like myself who just chose to chill out. So we did what we needed to do. Want to go right in today, you all. This frump accounts, all right? I'll call it that. So absurdity of absurdities. The New York Stock Exchange bell was rung today, this morning, at the White House. I think that was like the first time ever. Instead of it being rung in New York, they rang it at the White House to start hooping and hollering about that these frump accounts, we've been hearing about this for a while, was part of the Big Ugly Bill Act, where families with children born between 2023 and 2025, I think it is. It's a narrow window, but they could get this $1,000 contributed by the government into a savings account, and similar to like an IRA, you could contribute more money into that savings account. It would be held until that child it turns 18 years old. Y'all, is this another like crypto Bitcoin kind of situation, right? Because this is something that clearly the timing that he's trying to use to help the GOP, get people to think, oh, we really are still looking out for you. We're looking out for your kids, blah, blah, blah. Spirit, is the intention behind this actually to get more money from people? Is this, for entertainment purposes only? Is this sort of like another Ponzi scheme or something where people's money is gonna like go where? We have the Nine of Swords that comes at the bottom of the deck. Something to think about. There's concern around it. And I think this is indicating people being concerned around it. Can we really trust it? Regardless of what political affiliation you have, if you are looking for, if that $1,000 feels tempting to certain families, and the investments, because from what we're hearing, it is going to operate very similar to an IRA account or a 401k account, where those monies invested that can't be drawn out. What's being done with that money? This isn't just money from the government. This is money that the government will give seed money, the $1,000, but then families are supposed to continue to contribute to it. Is this a Ponzi scheme? Judgment. This is, there will be people who buy into this 100%, but because they're not going to educate themselves, and they're going to delude themselves on potentially that this could pay off for their children in the future, and the idea that they are getting something from the government. But Spirit, ultimately, is this money going to go the way of other money in terms of grift? The King of Wands, I get the impression that might be Besant or someone else in the treasury that oversees how this money is going to be used. And the Three of Pentacles. Yes. This is being sold as something where the government is working collaboratively with parents of children to build money, Three of Pentacles, to build money for their children's future. But ultimately, is that money going to be there when they're ready for it? The Eight of Pentacles. Ooh, look at you swaying. The Ace of Coins. But it comes reversed. And the Queen of Pentacles. I have to say, I think there will be a portion and the Hierophant. There will be a portion of this money, but it goes to government, you all. It goes whoever's going to run this program. That money is going to be used, funneled into the people, the administrators of the program, those who are in charge of, so maybe that King of Wands was Besant, the Treasury, those who are in charge of deciding how that money is invested, because essentially this is an investment account. So the Eight of Pentacles is them working the system to build on the success of it. People are going to look at statements and it will appear that in fact their money is growing, but will it be available when it's time for people to cash out? That's really where I'm headed. Justice reversed, and the Five of Pentacles. I knew it was coming. So the idea is, this is something people are going to be prepared to pay into. They're going to believe the hype. There will be statements, Eight of Pentacles, that show, oh yeah, you're doing the right thing. This money is growing. Just, how many times have we seen documentaries about Ponzi schemes that's how it looks. It looks like, oh, this is growing. I am going to get something out of this. But justice came reversed. This is ultimately down the road, because again, all this money that's going into this program right now, they don't get that money. The kids don't get that money until after they turn 18. So that's some years down the road, after administrations have changed, after, people who are in charge of these funds have changed. So that, and then the Five of Pentacles, it says on this card, even hard misfortune. It's a shame. That's all I can say. It's a shame. Now, related to that, talking about more grift, first time ever, if I'm not mistaken from the reporting that I saw, first time ever, the Republican Party is planning a midterm national convention in Dallas, September 9th and 10th. Trump is under a lot of pressure right now from the GOP because he's sitting on, at the latest figures are showing, about $350 million from the MAGA Inc. Super PAC. That money is supposed to go into funneling, money towards candidates that are running for national races across the country for the midterms. Ain't nobody seeing a dime, and they're starting to make a lot of noise about that. Like, yo, we need, what are you doing? You got this $350 million war chest that apparently was, supposedly, purportedly was put there. We fed into that so that candidates could be financially supported. Ain't nobody's, this money's not going out. All he's doing is getting up there making speeches about the left being communists, right? That's the latest tactic. Spirit. So the word on the street is that perhaps what he's doing is waiting to make a big splash for this Republican National Convention for midterms. So they're in trouble if they're doing this for the midterms in Dallas, of all places, to try and, boost up Paxton over Tallarico. Spirit, is he going to stiff, essentially? Is Trump, through this MAGA Inc., is he going to stiff these candidates with the money that he promised them to use for the midterms? Is he going to stiff them? The Two of Swords, he's thinking about it. Can I get away with it? He's conflicted about it. The Six of Cups, because he knows he promised it in the past. He promised it and said, this is what this money will be used for. The Seven of Swords, deception. He lied. Again. Right? Again. So is he planning to stiff these candidates instead of using that money to go into helping them, the Wheel of Fortune? I think what we're seeing here, there will be certain races, perhaps because they're doing the convention in Texas and because that Tallarico-Paxton race is going to be really, really, really closely watched. I think he's going to pour some money perhaps into that race, but he's going to cherry pick the Hanged Man. He's going to cherry pick who gets it and who doesn't. So broad spread support, using that money that was promised to candidates in the GOP across the nation, that he's going to cherry pick who gets it according to the races that he thinks are more in alignment with him, or will paint him as more of a success. Two of Pentacles, the partnerships. So the partnerships that he's going to form with certain candidates. So Paxton might see some of that. Because we also know that part of what happened in Texas when he went for Paxton was that was a race. Now Texas is going to need a lot of money from the GOP to carry that race forward. He's going to spend some money there, but temperance, he's also going to he's going to pocket some of that money, or try and save it, or try and make candidates really squirm to milk the most out of them before they will allow them to receive any of that funding. And there's the Hierophant. Absolutely, Spirit is doubling down on that. So the more you pledge allegiance to him, right, and totally buy into him, then that might get you some money. But overall, he is not intending to use that money for its intended purpose and what he said it was going to be used for. He's keeping that money in the MAGA war chest. Wow. And so again, but they have themselves to blame. They believe the hype and they pay into it. All right. I want to move on to another thing, Spirit. I saw an article this morning really pinged me. Now, this is going to set some of y'all off because this is about Rahm Emanuel going and giving a big speech in Tel Aviv this Wednesday, I believe, where, he's going to basically say that the text of the speech has been released. We understand that Rahm Emanuel, got advice from Bill and Hillary Clinton, who saw drafts of it to help him prepare. But he's going to go to Tel Aviv and basically tell Israel, very anti-Netanyahu tone to it. And he's going to tell Israel that U.S. support, carte blanche, is no longer on the table from the perspective of the Democratic Party moving forward. That absolute unmitigated military support, supplementation financially of military support for Israel, that times have changed, that Rahm Emanuel is going to advocate for Palestinian sovereignty. Like what? Right? And you talk about an establishment dim. Now, again, I know, Rahm Emanuel, for those of you who may not have be that, familiar with him, former Chicago mayor, huge Democratic operative, been around, through the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, the Biden administration. He is a political force, but he's certainly got his share of enemies. He can be pretty, he's an interesting character, and he can be a little bit, he can be not even a little bit, he can be a smooth operator. All right. But here's the point. He's saying what people like Schumer and Jeffries and others are not saying within the establishment Dems. He's breaking ranks, and he is going to do this in Israel. Spirit. Now, of course, he's doing part of this because Rahm Emanuel, Spirit apparently wants to speak on this one, y'all. He's thinking about a run in 28. We know that. I don't think so. But just the fact that as the Democratic Party is pushing increasingly for establishment Dems to wake the hell up and understand that the people's desires and wishes have changed towards not towards support for Israel, but the way that Netanyahu's government is running. That's the key. The fact that he is going to Israel, the fact that Rahm Emanuel, whose father I think immigrated here from Israel, like this is coming from, you can't say anti-Semitic, which is the key that they've been using, right? The minute you say something, that you're anti-Semitic, you can't, that argument's going to be really difficult to make against somebody like Rahm Emanuel. So, Spirit, is this speech going to make headwaves? People are calling it a thunderclap. Like, is this speech from Rahm Emanuel in Israel this week, is it going to be a thunderclap? And will it get the Democratic folks, leadership, to wake up to the messaging? We have the Ten of Swords, going to stress some people out, but look what comes behind it. I'm not going to ignore it. The Fool. It's going to stress some people out because it is a message that many don't want to wake up to. They're tied to that money. They're tied to AIPAC, other organizations. We know about that already, but it kicks off something different. The Fool. Spirit. Will this speech by Rahm Emanuel be absorbed into the Democratic establishment as we head to the midterms? They've got to recognize judgment, a wake-up call. Like trumpets blaring. If this can come from someone like, if this messaging can come from someone like Rahm, sovereignty for a Palestinian state, cutbacks to this, what are they calling it, the greater Israel vision that Netanyahu has in terms of incursions into other areas to expand. The Two of Pentacles, setting a new priority, and the Chariot. You all, this is going to be a really interesting push, if you will, sort of a wave that Rahm Emanuel being the voice of this kind of messaging in Israel, going there in Tel Aviv to deliver this speech, is going to have quite a ripple effect. I'm not suggesting that it's going to necessarily change Schumer or Jeffries, who I think are just way too glued to the old ways. But this is going to be messaging that carries over into helping more progressive candidates say, listen, it's not just us. This isn't about us being so far radically left that we have lost sight of the party as a whole. And the Ace of Wands, Spirit is confirming that, you all. So keep your eyes on that. If you hadn't already heard about it, keep your eyes on it. It's a really interesting article in Politico.com magazine on his speech. And I think it's gonna create some necessary waves, particularly within the DNC. Because again, Rahm is an operator. Like him or not, I'm not a particular fan. Let me just say that out loud. But you gotta, don't hate the player, hate the game kind of energy with him. And he knows the game, and he understands that the game is shifting. And the fact that he's willing to go out on the world stage, on a global stage, and make that kind of statement as a very influential Jewish politician, that's nothing to sneeze at. I'll be interested to see what happens there. All right, last thing I wanted to look at today is talking about progressives. Again, you're going to hear a lot from me on that. That's just what's in my spirit and from my guides, keeping us moving forward to the midterms with some momentum and some energy. In Michigan, 2 swing state primaries are coming up in August, and that'll be here in a flash, that we really need to keep an eye on. While places like New York and Colorado, the DSA, or not just socialists, dim socialists, but progressive movements, candidates in general, those to some extent were more expected because they are largely blue areas, right? But now we got some swing states coming into play in August with Michigan and Wisconsin. Michigan, big news this weekend. Someone who was gaining a lot of traction. What was her name? Mallory McMurrow. She dropped out. And she was more of a centrist establishment dim, had a lot of money, a lot of support. She dropped out because the progressive Abdul El Sayed, who has gotten the endorsement not only of Bernie Sanders, but AOC, has come in and lent her muscle to him. So he's gaining a lot of momentum. And in Wisconsin, we've got a Francesca Hung. I'm not as familiar with her. I'm going to do some more research into her, but she's the progressive candidate who apparently is making waves there. Are those races going to come out good, right? Let's go ahead and look at it now. I'll look at it more then, but those are swing states. That's where Spirit is saying that's where we really need that momentum, because even though we've seen progress on the progressive front in places like Colorado and New York, there are those who are going, well, of course it happened there. That's where all you lefty progressives are. But in competitive states like Michigan and Wisconsin, if that swings that way, right? Now what you got? Can you hear me now? Right? Can you hear me now? All right, y'all. So Spirit, these races in Michigan and Wisconsin, especially now that McMurrow bowed out, firmly establishment dim, bowed out, said I can see the writing on the wall. Are we going to see wins there? The Chariot, bring, and the Fool, and the World, and Judgment. Y'all saw me shuffling. Easy answers, okay? Yes. Judgment, wake up call. The world, and the fool come at bookends in major arcana from the beginning to the end, like a new start and an end of the old ways, and the chariot, the will of the people moving forward. I don't know what it's going to take, for us to finally get over that hump and better do it quickly in terms of embracing the establishment, and the Democratic National Committee is starting to really put the muscle and the money behind these candidates, because it's happening. Come on. Judgment, chariot, fool, world, beginnings to the end, a new chapter, because there is a reckoning, judgment ruled by Pluto. Fundamental, deep changes in psyche, in spirit, in voting patterns, and the chariot. We are ready for November. We are ready to move on. Eight of Swords. That's the Dems freaking out, and the Eight of Pentacles. It's almost as if they don't know what their identity is in the context of this new crop of progressives that are coming forward. They are so firm. It is about the money. It is about, being tied to this dark money and the super PACs and the corporate entities that have bought and paid for them, a la Schumer, Jeffries, and many more. But it is also that aside from the money, they bought into the messaging that they really think that they can appeal to this broader voter class of independents, of Republicans who may switch over. Like, they're still into that, and they're not understanding that in that judgment card, the game has changed. It's not about just reliance on independents or bringing over swing voters. It is about the growing voter class that is ready to jump on board, provided that you give them somebody to jump on board for, right? All right, y'all. That's what I have for you today. I hope it was helpful. And we will, of course, look deeper into those races in Michigan and Wisconsin as we get towards those primaries. I'm going to look later on this week, maybe even tomorrow. Old boy is headed to NATO this week. Going to be a shite show, always. But he's walking into a very different atmosphere at NATO. He's walking into a very different resolve by the countries in NATO, and not wanting to appease him, play his game, sit there and make him feel like a big dog. He can fly in on that Qatari plane all he wants to. They're not impressed by that. So that's going to be a really interesting thing, and we'll go to spirit on that as well. All right. Have a good one. Chin up, shoulders back. You know how we do. Keep breathing. Deep breaths. Settle your nervous system and be glad to be alive. What a time to be alive. And apparently we chose this, so we're up to the task, right? Sky above us and the earth beneath us. I'll talk to you a little later. Bye.